Do you find yourself putting in the extra work, going above and beyond, and still not getting the recognition that you deserve? Today, we're going to talk about some simple questions that you can ask your boss to make sure that you're in alignment with their vision for the organization. Stick with us. Hey everyone, John here. 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 Welcome to the Leaders Leading Leaders podcast. Welcome everybody to the Leaders Leading Leaders podcast. I am your host, John Espinosa. Today, we are going to talk about some simple questions that you can ask your boss to make sure that you're in alignment. One of the things that I consistently hear people say is, I put in the extra work, I'm there in overtime, my work is stellar, I always go above and beyond, I double check things, and it still feels like I'm not getting the performance rating that I deserve, I'm not getting the recognition that I deserve, I'm not getting that next promotion. So if this is you, we're going to talk about questions today that at your next performance review, at your next one-on-one, just call a meeting with your manager or your boss or your team lead. That way you can make sure where they are at, their vision of the organization, and then how your work can fit into that vision. A lot of time leaders struggle with communicating their vision. This isn't something that's easy. This isn't something that you walk into leadership and you're taught. We have a goal. We have metrics that we have to follow. We have performance objectives. But what's your vision? What's that North Star? What's that compass that the leader has? And how can you get behind that to make sure that you're in alignment so it doesn't feel like you're spinning your wheels and working overtime for nothing? So let's get into this. And one of the things, I love to read. So on LinkedIn, the Harvard Business Review published an article recently, and they talked about these questions to ask your boss. So I'm going to ask the questions, and then I'm going to give you an answer on how I would answer that as a leader to coach you through having this conversation with your boss, your manager, or your team lead. So the first question here, and it's a great question, and I very rarely, when I think back, I've had great bosses. I've had great leaders that I've been able to mentor under, that have coached me throughout my career. And one of the things that I hyper focus on is their goals. So one of the questions that you can simply ask your boss is, what goals do you discuss with your boss? So you're looking a level up from where you're at. Everybody has goals. Everybody is being held to a certain standard. But do you know what your boss's standards? What are they being held to? What makes them, incentivized to get the things done that need to be done? This is a great question for you to ask. And a lot of times it can simply be, what goals do you discuss with your boss? What are your goals that I can help you achieve? You see how that question works? So don't be so blunt about it. You can make sure, and again, you got to establish that rapport with your boss. A lot of these questions are going to dig deep into their mindset, where they're at in the organization. So I would encourage you, if you've never had a conversation like this with your boss, you may want to go in first, have the performance conversation. What can I do to increase my performance? What are some things that you would like me to do? Start, stop, and continue. I love that. It gives very clear things that you can start, stop, and continue. But this goal question really digs deep. So a lot of times, leaders will let you know exactly what their goals are. If they are on a yearly performance plan, a lot of those goals are going to be outlined in that yearly performance plan. Depending on what level in the organization you are, you're just going to increase. It may go out a year. It may go out 2 years. You may have a project coming up in 6 months. They may be tasked with a certain priority that they need to get done. It needs to get off their plate. So how can you help them achieve that goal? You see where this is starting to create alignment for your work. So if you're gathering data, or you're helping organize teams, or you're contracting, or you're in accounting, or, whatever your trade, your business, even if you're starting out and you're new employee, how can you work smarter, not harder, to align with your boss's goals? And then the other thing that this achieves is you don't get frustrated. The work that you're doing helps your boss reach their goals, and it also helps you reach your goals, making sure that you're all working together. So that's a great question to start out with. Here's another great one. And I've had leaders ask me this question, but it's a great question to ask your boss. What keeps you up at night? And I may even quantify that. What are the 2 or what are the 3 things that keep you up at night? For me, as a leader, it's the security, job security, providing job security for my team. That's one thing that keeps me up at night. Resources. Do we have enough resources to do the job that we need to do? And then last but not least, am I overtasking? Am I overloading imbalance of workload? So those are the 3 things that I would answer that question. So from an employee standpoint, how can you help that? How can you help the resource question? You become the resource. How can you help the workload question? Well, what does your workload look like, and how can I help you, or how can I support you in that workload balance? You'd be surprised what your supervisor or what your boss answers to just that simple question of what keeps you up at night. Great question to ask. So remember, write these down. I want you to be active listening. Don't be just a passive listener. If you're driving, if you're working out, bookmark this episode so you can come back, take some notes in your journal. Very, very important. I want to take a quick break from our discussion today to mention a couple things. First of all, thank you for listening. Only 50% of our listeners are subscribed to our channel. Do me a favor, click on that subscribe button. It's going to allow our channel to continue to grow and give you updates whenever we get new episodes published. The second thing is our coaching program. People who want to work with me are looking to make a lasting change, level up, or get unstuck. I gave up on my dreams. I was a young parent, had to make a couple career changes. I went through some financial hardships. I had to learn how to flip my mindset and stay consistent. Our coaching programs are individualized one-on-one sessions where I will teach you a proven system and guarantee that you can reinvent yourself over and over again. If that sounds like something that interests you, head on over to thejohnespinosa.com and sign up to get more information. Now back to the show. The third question here is, what actions or changes would make the biggest difference in 90 days? I love working in 90-day sprints. I do quarterly reviews. I do quarterly milestones, and then I work backwards in either 30 or 45-day increments from there. So it breaks up the monotony of a year-long performance review. A lot of organizations do a biannual, so mid-year, and then a lot of organizations do a final. 6 months goes by. How do you know if you're in alignment with your boss? So keep it to 90 days. Make sure that you are contributing to whatever tasks, whatever sprint that they are working towards in those 90 days. There's going to be goals, back to the goal question, that they probably have milestones broken down into. So how can you maybe lead one of those milestones? What are your skill sets, your strengths that you can bring to the table? You never know what the task may be and what your experience can bring into that. I can tell you, leading organizations, when you have a team of 10 or plus more people, it's hard to manage. It's difficult to lead, but it's really hard to manage the skill set of those individuals. So unless you have a leader that's really engaged, they might not know the skills that you bring, and it may have just not come up in conversation. So this is an important question for you to understand what actions or changes would make the biggest difference. And then how can you play in? How can you be a part of making that difference? So let's talk about the next one here. Again, write these down. As I'm asking the question, how would you answer it? That's going to make you feel a lot more comfortable when you go in and you ask your boss these questions. The fourth one we're going to talk about is, what do you wish you had more time to work on? This question right here can unpack a lot of the things that are important to your boss that they don't get to work on. When we walk into the door some days, we hit that first email, and guess what? We immediately get tactical. We immediately start problem solving. We immediately start putting out the fires as leaders. Some days our calendar goes right out the window. So what are some things that your boss could work on if they had the time to work on? Professional development, maybe redoing a process or a system that has been on their board. I got a lot of things up on my board. My team knows when they come into the office, and if they ever want to know what I wish I could work on, it's up there on that board. So those are my 90-day, those are my yearly and biannual things that I want to get done. It's important to make sure that your work is tied into that. So for this, what do they want to work on? And then can you offload some tasks, some tactical things that are on their plate so that they have time to go work on it? I promise you, they're going to remember that. They are going to remember the time when you walked in, you said, "Hey boss, you're just not yourself. I'm just checking in. Is everything going okay?" Ask that question. If you have a good leader, they will open up, and then ask them, what could you work on if you had more time? And can I help offload some of that stuff on your plate so that way you can work? I don't like seeing you like this. Great question. Get you in alignment, get you some work, creates that trust that you're going to need when that performance review comes up. Speaking of performance, another question to ask is, what does good performance look like? This one right here, I tell you, it's not asked enough. We have performance plans. You have a development plan. You have a system maybe for raises, whatever that looks like in your organization. Ask your boss, what does good performance look like? They're the ones that are going to be rating you. So don't assume just with some bullets on a piece of paper what good performance looks like. And then this follow-up question to that is, what does great performance look like? So get the baseline. For me, I always start with the 5-star. This is what excellent exceeds performance looks like. So you know the highest expectation. Anything below that is going to either be a meets or unsatisfactory. So make sure you understand what the baseline is. And then the great performance question lets your boss know that's where you want to set your standard. So it's a two-way street there, and make sure everything that you're doing is in alignment. A lot of times that's where communication breakdown occurs. I think I know what you want. It's that rock game. Here's the rock, boss. No, it's not big enough. Here's another rock, boss. No, it's not shiny enough. Nobody likes to play that rock game. It gets very frustrating. So just ask them, what does good and what does great performance looks like? Great way to align your work. Another one, emerging trends. So your boss sees things and is involved in conversations at higher levels. And I'm not talking about like higher because they're better than you. I'm talking about they're in rooms with executives or senior leaders that's their job. Their job is to simply forecast the direction, to make sure that the organization is moving forward. They're involved in those conversations. So how can you get a little glimpse in there? Ask the question, what emerging trends do you see that maybe I don't see? You would not believe the answers that you'll get. Sometimes it'll be something that you totally just did not see in the organization, but guess what? It fits into your wheelhouse. Maybe it's more project management in the organization. Guess what? I'm a project manager. How can I help you? What are the emerging trends? We're consistently seeing people fall behind, resource overusage, work imbalance, deadlines not being met. That's all project management. So how can you help? What's the emerging trends that they're seeing that maybe you can step in and again, align your work to their vision? And then last but not least, how does a particular task compare to my other responsibilities? So this one can really kick off a great conversation. When I ask about a particular task and how does it compare, that's when you get the feedback. That's a feedback question. That's to make sure that their expectation of a particular task, maybe it's a report, it needs to meet 90 or 100% accuracy, and you're not there just yet. And it may be just because you're new to the organization, so you didn't think to add another layer. or you didn't understand the decision that needed to be made and you didn't provide that information. Again, a lot of times we're guessing what our boss needs, but we need to get very clear about how our work that we're doing compares to what they're asking, and get that feedback. Don't be afraid to open yourself up. It's a two-way street. I promise you, you are going to benefit in the end. So we talked about some great questions that will align you to your boss's vision for the organization, for the team. It hopefully will help alleviate that frustration where you feel like you're spinning your wheels and your work is going unrecognized when you are putting in max effort. Remember, a leader's job is to make sure that the people in their organization are doing the right things. So if you can tie into that, you're going to be one leg up on your competition. I just know it. I hope this helps somebody today. I believe that you can gain alignment with your boss. Sit down and have the conversation. Use these questions as that baseline for you to get going on the path that you want to go. Go be great. Talk to everyone later. Bye-bye. If you like what you're hearing, do us a favor. Click on that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up or leave a comment. That lets us know that what we are putting out benefits you. If you want additional information or resources or learn how to work with me, head on over to thejohnespinosa.com, because when we become better versions of ourselves, it helps us get others to where they're going. Go be great. Talk to everyone later.